It's Thursday, the 30th day of April. Believe it or not, we have reached the end of the month. A crazy month that it's been. May tomorrow. And while May is going to come in with some more April showers tomorrow, it looks like Saturday, Sunday could be beautiful weather. It looks like it could be 70 degrees and May like come a couple of days from now. So hopefully we get some nice weather as we hit the month of May. And hopefully May sees better days than we've seen the last couple of months. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that as we try to move along here in this craziest of years. A couple things here, real quick on this last day of the month. Rainy, kind of overcast day with a lot of wind today too. Been pretty nasty. Um, Number one, Little League World Series canceled. So to the long list of cancellations. Yesterday we told you there won't be any fans in Saratoga this summer. We still don't know if there'll be racing in Saratoga. We know there won't be any fans in attendance in Saratoga. We now know that the Little League World Series is canceled. The Hall of Fame presentation up in Cooperstown this year has been canceled. So as you're seeing, teams are preparing to return. That is not a secret. The NFL season has a plan to start late if that's the case. You saw them take a cut and pay because they know there's going to be some changes in that league this year. Everyone realizes that sports is going to take a long time to come back as far as the fans in the stadium goes because we're going to need some help from the uh, biotech and the drug community before we get anything done in that department. And the earliest we've heard that we could get a vaccine would be next summer. That would be the earliest. We know there's some cases that they are rushing. We know there's one at Oxford. We know there's a couple of others, but again, they're still a year away. The remdesivir from Gilead has gotten some positive reviews that as a therapeutic. But remember, it's a therapeutic that's only used for extreme cases. It's used in the hospital. It is given intravenously for anywhere from 5 to 10 days, so it is not in any pill form, and it's not for everybody. Um, it's when you're really sick. One of the things today, and this is something that I wanted to see 5 weeks ago, and this is where politics plays its ugly, rears its ugly head. And it's one of the reasons why, as I've screamed for this a very long time, you don't have anybody run for 2 terms as a president. You have a one-term president, 6 years, that's it. You don't want him ever to be spending a day, ever, at any point, worried about reelection, worried about fundraising, worried about polls, worried about campaign trails, worried about anything. Having a meeting along that line. 1 term, 6 years, you're out. That's the way it should be. So that never anything, you're never anything except working for the country when you're there. You're not ever thinking about reelection. It's human nature to be thinking about reelection. You understand why any president would be thinking about reelection, but you don't want that to be the case because you've heard today, as you've heard from every doctor, as you've heard from every league, as you've heard from every team, as you've heard from every player, they're not coming back until there's adequate testing. We are way behind in that area. New York took a huge leap today by putting Bloomberg and his charitable arm that is run through Johns Hopkins as far as medicine goes, and it's one of the foremost programs in the country. He and that arm will be in charge of testing in the state of New York, and it will become, I think, the solid gold standard because A, he's got the resources, B, he's got the plans, he's got Johns Hopkins behind him, he's got SUNY New York behind him, he's got everything in the state behind him, and watch, it will be done the right way. It should have been done on a federal level. He was the guy to do it, but you're not going to bring him in because he's been an opponent of the president, so that's not going to happen. He is the perfect guy. He's got more money than God. He is a brilliant man, and it was perfect for him. And he should be doing it on a national level, not on a state level, but we'll take it on the state level because it's our state. So that is at least a distinct positive. It's going to take time, but it's a distinct positive. We'll see how long it takes to unfold. I asked the guys to come up with something different. I said, we're going to be doing this still for a while, and I'm not one to reminisce. I'm not one to. You got the fan putting on games all the time. You got the networks and the local channels putting on old events and old games and everything. So everybody's doing that and creating lineups and doing all these different things. And it's not what I do. It's not something I believe in. Not that we don't talk about ex players or go back in time sometimes, but that's not what I believe in. But I had my guys go back. I said, "Here's what I want you to do." I said every day we do this while we're still in this mode until we get sports back on a regular basis. Take my two favorite players of all time, and let's go back and they both had very long careers. They played 18 and 16 years respectively. Both played center field. Both switched it for the Yankees. Obviously, Mickey Mantle and Bernie Williams. I said, look up their careers. Give me the date and give me the best game they had on that date. Now, they're not always going to have a great game on that date, but just give me the best game. And if it's terrible, I'll just say they didn't have a good day that day. But let's see the date, what happened that day. Let's just trace their day that year. So for Mantle today, it's April 30th, 1952 comes into play. Mickey's career goes from 51 to 68, through 68. His is April 30th, 1952, the young Mantle. The Yankees playing a midweek doubleheader against the St. Louis Browns. Losing the first game 9-4. Yankees off to a sluggish start that year. Browns actually off to a better start. In the first game, Mantle batted eighth. Okay, remember, 51 was his first season. He got hurt. He and DiMaggio played. DiMaggio now retires. Mickey, though, is not in center field yet. He's in right field. Bob Serve, if you remember. Bob Serve is in center field. Mickey's in right field batting eighth. In the first game of the doubleheader, he goes 3 for 4 with a double, a homer, and 2 RBIs. He plays the second game of the doubleheader. Remember, he's a baby. He's 20 years old. Plays right field again. This time he bats third in the second game of the doubleheader. So he batted eighth in the first game of the doubleheader, played right field. Batted third in the second game of the doubleheader, played right field. Bob Serve again played center field. Yankees won that game 4-1. He went 2 for 3 with a walk, 1 run scored, 1 RBI. In the first game, he had 3 for 4 with a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. So he had a 5 for 6 doubleheader. Excuse me, a 5 for 7 doubleheader. And had a homer, a double, and 2 RBIs in the first game, an RBI, and a run scored in the second game, and a walk. Raised his batting average to .317 on that April 30th. Bernie, we go to April 30th, 2004. Yankees beat the Royals, who were not a good team, 5-2. This is 2004. This is the year the Yankees. This is later Bernie. This is the Yankees, the year they are going to, coming off a World Series loss to the Marlins, and they're going to go on to lose the series that no one will ever forget from 3 games up against the Red Sox in that year. Bernie bats second against Anderson. He DHs. He goes 2 for 4 with 2 doubles and an RBI and a walk. So he went 2 for 4 and a walk, 2 doubles, an RBI, and a run and 2 runs scored, and raised his batting average to 194. Now remember, Bernie, being from Puerto Rico, was a slow starter. He did not like the cold weather. He did not like to hit in the cold weather. Usually a slow starter. Mantle was not a predictably slow starter. Matter of fact, there were many times Mantle got off to fast starts in seasons. He was not a slow starter. I can think of numerous occasions where he got off to very fast starts. Bernie was a notoriously slow starter. So there you have Mickey, 1952, playing a doubleheader, having a 5 for 7 doubleheader, and playing right field in both games. Yankees split the doubleheader, and then Bernie as the Yankees beat the Royals, batting second, DHing, two doubles, 2 runs scored, and a walk, and raised his batting average to a more respectable, almost got it to 200, 194 on this last day of April. We will do that because the two of them, if you realize, they only played for one team. They spent most of their lives patrolling the most famous position there is, center field in Yankee Stadium. Bernie played 16 years. He played over 2,000 games, 2,076 games. That's a lot of games. Mickey Mantle played 18 years and played 2,401 games. For a long time, that was the most games ever played by a Yankee. Both center fielders predominantly, although neither in center field on these days, ironically. Bernie in 2004 as a DH, Mickey in 1952 as the right fielder. But both spending both their careers. Bernie really a terrific switch hitter who won a batting crown. Very consistent and a great clutch postseason player. Mickey, the greatest switch hitter of all time and one of the greatest players of all time. So between them, 34 seasons and almost 4,500 games. So a lot to dig into. And each day that we have this, we'll now look at what they did. And in that season, how the day played into that game. Tomorrow will be May 1st. Whatever day we do a show, we'll do that. So we'll follow them through. And it'll be their best day in their career on that day. And how it impacted the teams on those days. Just something a little different. A couple of things here. I mentioned the Little League World Series canceled. Dalton, Bengals release him. We'll see where he lands now. Everyone knew he was going to go, so they didn't have to make a trade, so now he's gone. Lamb will wear 88 for you Cowboy fans, putting him in rarefied air of the great receivers. As you know, 88 is the number for receivers for the Cowboys. Pearson, Michael Irvin. I don't want to put Des Bryant with the other two, but you can if you want. But Lamb will wear 88 for the Cowboys, so he gets the number. If that should, I'm sure that matters historically to some Cowboy fans. Now, one other thing. You've heard Dr. Schlafmitz on with me before from St. Francis Hospital, one of the renowned cardiologists, one of the renowned heart doctors in the country, and a good friend, and one of my doctors. He's doctors to a lot of folks on Long Island and a lot of families on Long Island, and a very prominent doctor. And he did the thing with his charity, the Schlafmitz Heart Foundation. And you can go to this site. He did a thing called Long Islanders for Long Islanders where he interviewed everybody about what was going on, about the crisis. You could ask him questions. He'd ask you questions. So we did a bunch of interviews. And I'm going to run down for you the people. You had to be a Long Islander. And he picked the interviews. And he sent them all to me today. I'll show you where you can get them and where you can make a donation. All the money goes to the hospitals and to the the virus fund, and for Long Island, and for the Long Island hospitals, and for the workers, and for everything else. And his foundation, Schlafmitz Heart Foundation, will deliver the money you donated to his heart foundation. There's a link. Just go to www.schlafmitzheart.org. Okay, and you can get all the different ones that he sent, all the different ones he did. So let me find him here. Hold on. Let me see. He did a whole bunch of interviews today. And so if you go there and make a donation, whatever you could give, $1, $2, and you can watch all the different interviews he did. If they interest you, can link to each one of them. First one he did was with Howard Stern. Second one was with me. Third one was with Susan Lucci, all Long Islanders. Fourth one with Kevin James. Then Ralph Macchio from The Karate Kid, the author Nelson DeMille, Gary Valentine, Shep Messing, Butch Goring, Ed Kranepool, Michelle Wiest, Marty Lyons, Clark Gillies, Representative Peter King, and and on and on. All many doctors, religious leaders, entertainers, Dr. Gersey, who runs the hospital, all different people. You can listen to each one of these, and again, then you can make a donation. So it's Long Islanders for Long Island. The Long Island answer to the coronavirus pandemic, and it all goes through the Schlafman's Heart Foundation. Again, you can go to www.schlafmansheart.org, and you can click on to any of the interviews and find out where to donate. Please be generous, give whatever you can, and the money goes to all the hospitals and all the hospital workers on Long Island. So it's Long Islanders for Long Island, and that's where you go, and you'll see where you can click on the donate, and then you can click on to the interviews. It starts with Howard, then me, and then Susan Lucy goes down, Kevin James goes down the line. So again, Long Islanders for Long Island, please check it out, and please make a donation. When we come back, we'll talk to Eddie C. about baseball. Back after this. Long time voice of the Mets, one of the voices of the Mets, along with Howie Rose and all the other guys, Gary and Keith and Ron, everybody, Eddie Colman, who joins us now. Eddie, welcome. What's happening?
How are you, Mike? Yeah, what's happening? I don't know. Same old.
Well, Eddie, you know what I want to ask you? Your girls, what happened with their colleges? Were they seniors? Was one a senior in college this year?
My oldest was working in New York.
Right.
She's moved back home.
Right. She graduated already?
She graduated,
okay.
Yeah. My youngest was a junior at St. Mike's up in Vermont. She's a lacrosse player, and she had her lacrosse season canceled like everybody else's stuff. But
so what happens now? So she's home, and she didn't go back to school, right?
No, no, she did not go back. She's been doing all her stuff online, driving us crazy here.
Right, yeah.
but no, she's everybody's safe. It's like the old days. I got the kids back home.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, mine. Mine obviously didn't go away to school yet, but I want them to go away to camp now this summer. That's for sure. So they've been in the house so much, but it's crazy. Everybody has full houses again. So everybody has all the college kids home, and I guess not just that. A lot of the young workers, like your daughter. A lot of the people who were young workers in New York went home, right? A lot of them left the city and went home during this time.
Well, it was interesting. Like, she's working. I just booted her out of the chair here so I could do this with you. She's working at my desk, working. She's a media buyer for a company in New York, and she had an apartment in New York that she got last year, but the lease was up at the end of April. So we decided to put the stuff in storage for now. The heck with the lease, because you don't know when you can go back in, and we'll figure out, afterwards where you're going, and we'll find another place. So she's home for now, or back home for now.
What did you think of we know the plan that had the players all away for a long time was axed by a bunch of the players, especially Kershaw and Trout and the like.
Yep.
Did you like the 3-team, 30, the 10 league, 10-team league thing with the Yanks and Mets in the same division? Did you like that thing?
I kind of like the Yanks and the Mets in the same division, Mike, but I wasn't crazy about the 3-team breakup. I think, or thought all along, and again, I don't think any of this is easy. I don't think any plan is simple. Let's put it that way. But the one I liked the best was the Arizona-Florida one, where everybody kind of went back to their spring training homes. I think as far as less confusion, I think that's probably the best for a lot of players.
But the players didn't like that because they're away from their kids too long, right? I guess that's the idea, right?
Well, I think the Arizona plan was in particular that. They didn't want to go someplace and be one place for 4 months and, kind of be sequestered for 4 months. The Arizona-Florida one would at least, I think you would be able to go home. If you had your family at a spring training home, you'd be able to go home as long as you were tested regularly, and I guess, your family probably was too. I don't know if that's viable or not. I don't know what's viable at this point.
What have you heard about broadcasters? Have they talked to you guys about anything as to how you would do this? Would you do it from a studio up here, or would you do it from down there?
I think it would be a studio up in here in New York. I think that everyone is kind of resigned to that at this point
So
in
all
time.
the announcers would be doing the games from a studio.
I believe so, because I think, when you actually get to the stadium, you've got to cut down as many people as you can. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I would imagine that, just say the TV broadcast crew in particular, they would have their own people along with them. I don't know if you can do that. You're probably going to have one broadcast crew for a stadium, one or two. It could switch off, and then everybody is going to have to kind of use those crews. I think it cuts down on the number of people that you deal with, and that's why I think the announcers probably are going to be back in studios broadcasting TV off TV and radio off TV as well too. I think
like the old days.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. I think it's probably the only way to go. Well, it's interesting because a lot of the Spanish stations and a lot of the teams that have Spanish broadcasts, the Spanish broadcasters don't necessarily travel with the teams. They will do games from a monitor when the team is on the road. So I guess we're all going to have to kind of get used to that at this point in time. At least that's everything that I've gotten so far. That's probably the way it's going to be, unless things really clear up, and it doesn't look like it's going to clear up that much in a short amount of time.
Well, no, and you get the idea that nothing happens for the players until they feel they are confident there's some testing program they feel comfortable with. And that's where Bloomberg comes in today, because he could turn out to be a savior here, because he's the one guy who actually has the brains and the money and the manpower using Johns Hopkins and his whole charity to maybe get tracing done. I mean, if anyone can do it, it's him. I mean, he's the one guy, and he's now dedicated, along with Cuomo, to do New York State. He should be doing the whole country, but that's too much politics. It's not going to happen. He should be the guy in charge of the whole country. But if he just gets New York State done and everyone follows what he does here, that would be a big positive, because they have the manpower. They have Johns Hopkins. They have a plan in place. I saw it today. And I mean, they feel they can actually do this. It might take a month to get it started, but it looks like he at least feels he can do it. And if you're not going to use him, I don't see how it's possible, because he's got the money and he's got the stuff in place to do it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, listen, we need testing, we need tracing. I mean, I don't know about you, Mike, but you look at, it's funny. I mean, I'm here with my two girls, my wife, and you've got your family at home, and you kind of look around and you say, I have no idea whether they have COVID.
We've kept them home because, we just, first of all, if they tell you if you're our age, you got to worry, number one. So, the doctor said, don't get this, and he said that to my wife and to me, he said, don't get this. Just make sure you don't get it. Stay away. So the kids pretty much, let's be honest, they kind of shut them down anyway. Their schools got shut down. They've been, and no one's really gone anywhere. So they've been around the house for the most part. I mean, they go out and play, they run around a little bit, but they don't go anywhere. Their leagues have been shut down, their teams have been shut down, their schools have been shut down. So they haven't really gone anywhere. So we haven't had that many people around, to be honest with you. I mean, I think we're like everybody else. We see everybody when we go for a walk, or play golf, but that's it.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. You worry sometimes. Even just the simple fact, like my daughter goes to, she just made the last couple of runs to the supermarket.
Yeah.
So
even that, we've been pretty protective even from that standpoint.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know if the kids. Now, I saw a thing today that said kids under 18 aren't carriers. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was a report today. And I'm like, hey, that would be great if that's true, but how do you know it? I mean, how would anybody know that? I mean, it sounds nice. It was a report today. It was, matter of fact, it was Bloomberg that had the report. And I'm saying, well, it sounds good, but how do you know it's true?
Yeah. There's a couple of things on baseball that still perplex me, and I guess, worry me about.
What's that?
About how it's going to go. Well, one thing is and I know the owners want to do this as soon as you can, and that's transition to home ballparks. But I don't know how they're going to do that, and I don't even know if it's equitable. You know what I mean? Is it fair for one team to be able to transition back to their ballpark, like say a Toronto? Canada has not had that much of an infestation. They have a dome stadium. They could maybe move back there, but you look at the Yankees and the Mets. I'd be shocked if they're going to be able to play games in these stadiums before, certainly by the summer. I don't know about later on, but I just don't know how they can pull that off and whether it's fair and equitable to everybody else, as some teams can go to their home ballparks and others can't. I don't know how they're going to do that.
I think it's a big issue. I think New York is going to be very slow, and it has to be because there's no way to socially distance here. And let's be honest, all these sports, everyone's planning on not having any crowds until next year at any building. I mean, look at what's been canceled already. The only thing coming back that's scheduled is golf, and they're not having any fans. Saratoga's already been canceled. The Little League World Series got canceled today.
Little League World Series.
The Hall of Fame ceremony got canceled already. All of Saratoga got canceled. So that's already 40 dates that got canceled. So that's out. They're not having the sales there either. I know a couple of guys told me today that there's more than a few NBA owners who were today calling on the league to cancel the season. I don't know. I don't know if that's. I know a lot of guys feel that's what makes sense now, but I don't know if that's the case. I know the players don't want it. They want to play some kind of playoff. I think now there's, if you didn't make the playoffs, you're not playing again this year. We know that. But, I mean, I don't know if they're going to even be able to get something done. I mean, you've heard this plan about playing at Disneyland and all that stuff, but who knows? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I think baseball will have some kind of season. But
I do, too.
Yeah. But and they can play it till November 1st. The NFL is willing to back up. They don't really want to, but they will back up to October 15th for stadium issues if they have to. And for broadcast issues, the World Series could be played in November. You could get something done, but hey, I wonder. I actually wonder what makes more sense: something that's haphazard or not playing at all. I don't know what makes more sense.
I know. Well, that's the other part. The other thing that I think you have to be concerned about would be this. And again, I understand baseball is trying to do everything they can to get some kind of season in this year, but I applaud them for that. And the last that I heard, basically, 80 to 100 games through July through October, thereabouts, and then play the postseason in November, maybe even go to early December. But the other thing I think you have to worry about if you do that, what's next year going to be? What are you going to do next year? You're going to start spring training on February 10th next year? I don't think you can do that. If you're going to play late into this year, I think you have to also think about what you're going to do next year as well, too, before you even get there. I think you have to at least.
Well, that's why I think that's especially true. And we're talking about Eddie Colman with hockey and basketball, which think that they're definitely going to affect next season, and they don't really want to. They want to be able to start fresh next year, but no one knows if they'll be able to start. If you listen to these guys, and like everyone else, I pay attention to all these reports and everything. And if you believe even the most optimistic vaccine reports, like the one out of Oxford University, they're still saying it would be next June at the earliest that they could rush it would be next June. That would be something. The mumps that they rushed, and I know it's a different world now, but the mumps took 4 years. That's the fastest vaccine ever brought to market. 4 years on a massive level for the mumps, and they said that was quick. They said maybe, I saw a guy last night who was one of these experts on it, and he said if they rushed and they really cut every corner and everything went optimum, I could see maybe they have a vaccine by next June. He said maybe that could be mass produced. That's still a year. That's another year away.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Anthony Fauci was on. I heard him this morning, and they were talking about remdesivir, which is, supposedly it has cut back at least the recuperation time for people with COVID in the hospital.
And that's an intravenous drug that's given for 7 to 10 days.
Right, and it's an expensive drug.
Yes, it is.
Apparently, but I think he said that if everything went according to Hoyle and everything was fine, that you could look at January possibly as having it.
Right, and that's just for a therapeutic drug. And that's only one for the real sick people. I mean, that's only for people who are in the hospital because it's only intravenous.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, listen, I pay attention to what Dr. Fauci says. I think he's been great during this. He's a breath of fresh air. He's concise. He's direct. But even he has kind of waffled a little bit. I mean, if you think back to either last week or a little before that, he was saying, well, baseball does have a chance. I think that we could get back, and you will see baseball. And then just the other day, I think yesterday, as a matter of fact, he said, "I'm not sure if we're going to have if you're going to."
I don't think you're going to have fans.
At all.
I don't think you're going to have fans at any. I don't think you're going to have any fans at a game. I don't think you're going to have fans at an American sport for this calendar year. I do not think that's going to happen. And I mean, I'm thinking about what are they going to do for college football? I mean, are they even going to have students on the campuses? I mean, no less. Well, I don't know what's going to happen for a sport like college football, but baseball. I mean, you would know this better than me. Do you think if they poll the players, do you think they want to get paid, which we know, and they already got paid through May 31st.
The end of May, right?
Right, they got $170 million, but if they poll the players and they know there's no fans all year, you think they vote yes or they vote no?
I think actually the players would vote yes, because I think there are enough guys who need the money and want to play. There are some,
and you got to realize the money's not going to be the same. We know that. If they think the money's the same, then they're not coming back. Because if they think they're getting paid in full, these guys, some teams would lose $300,000 a week.
No question. The interesting, the $170 million that you talk about, through the end of May. Basically, when you break that down, it's 30 teams.
Right, it's $4,000 a day, a guy, $4,700 a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not a heck of a lot of money.
Not for them. No.
I know the Mike Trouts and the Clayton Kershaws and maybe some others can sit out a season and it's not going to affect them. And there are a bunch of other guys too. But I think the rank and file, for the most part, you're talking about a lot of guys who are making a little above minimum, even though that's a lot of money. It's not big in baseball terms, and I think they need the money, and I think they're going to want to play. So I would say the majority would vote to play. I don't know how that affects the other people who might say, hey, I can't be bothered, I'm not going to do it. But I would imagine that most teammates would fall in line. That's what I would think.
I just see a report here right now. It says that the governor of California says the beaches now will remain closed till May 15th because he has 2,500 new cases today. So the beaches stay closed until May 15th. So
it's scary, Mike.
It's not going. It's not going away right now. It's just not.
I read something. The island of Hokkaido in Japan, which is just off the coast of Japan, was one of the first places in Japan to be infected. But they shut things down rather early, and they avoided most problems and most deaths, and they opened things back up. And now they have to close it back down because it's opening up. It has come back in.
Well, the guy I've been watching, and there's a couple of them, and Fauci gets the attention, but there's a couple other guys that have, renowned, and they say it's going to. They say no hook or crook. It's like gravity. It's going to seek out 60% of the people in the country. It's going to seek them out, and that's all there is to it. So realize. And if we get tested eventually, whenever that is, and we who knows, but we'll then find out how many people actually have it, and then we'll know what kind of shape we're in. I mean, but I got a feeling like there's still a lot of stuff like that, and it's gonna change every bit of life, but it's gonna change sports incredibly. That's all there is to it. I mean, what are you going? Not just that. How about concerts? I mean, how about Broadway concerts, even restaurants, movie theaters? I mean, all this stuff is going to change. Planes, hotels. I mean, none of it's going to be the same until we get a vaccine.
Well, one thing that baseball, I know, is they've kicked around a lot of scenarios, but, if they do indeed at some point open up ballparks, they're not going to be able to be filled. If you have a 10-seat row, you're going to have maybe 5 people in those seats. But the other problem is that, you've got to have ushers, you've got to have security people in order to watch these people, to keep spacing and concession lines.
Absolutely, you got to park cars and security, and you can't have concessions. And if you open the bathrooms, you can't have concessions. You're going to start selling food.
That's a good point.
If you're going, but you got to open the bathrooms, and you got to be able to serve some kind of refreshments. You can't ask people not to drink anything, and you don't want people to water fountains. So, most stadiums don't even have water fountains. I don't think anymore. Anyway,
I don't think they do either.
Right. So you got to open concession stands. I mean, that creates a whole different deal. Nobody's going to eat open food that people are touching anymore. That's gone. Right. Those kind of things are gone. That could be a guy who's slinging hot dogs or flipping things over at the counter. That's not happening. I mean, it changes all that stuff. These stadiums are almost going to have to be redesigned.
Yeah, no, listen. I don't know if you're are you a real sports fan? The Brian Gumbo show
I
on
did
HBO?
not. I haven't seen a show about this, but I mean, I know they do a great job. I have not seen a show about this.
Catch the one that just came out. I think it just came out this week. But
Is that the one that
fascinating
Nance
story.
was on too? When Nance,
Yes.
I heard,
Jim Nance,
I heard him and Breeny and Buck were on it, but I didn't see it.
and Joe Buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually Buck and Nance looked like they had been at home for a while. Breen looked like he just woke up out of bed. Breeny looked great. Breeny always looks good. He looks good. He looks like he could roll out of bed in a suit and just pick up.
Yeah, he lives a quick walk from me, but I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
We live pretty close, but I haven't seen him.
Well, they had a fascinating story on there about Game 0 in Milan, Italy. This was a soccer team from Bergamo, which is outside of Milan. And in soccer, this was a down and out team, which had finally made the Champions League, the A League in Italy. And basically the entire town went to this game in Milan, which they won and scored 6 or 7 goals or whatever. And the doctors were commenting. They were watching the screen or the videotape on the goal scores, and they could see the fans erupting. And he said, "This is a perfect storm for coronavirus. You have projectiles coming out of everyone's mouth, projecting onto people. Soon enough, less than 2 weeks later, almost the entire town was sick and in hospitals.
Unbelievable.
The death rate just soared at that time. So that'll tell you what's in store for people. If this continues the way it is, and the chances you take in going to a sporting event with a lot of people, it's probably not going to happen.
Have you been in touch with any Mets players at all? Have you been in contact with any players? I mean, you're friendly with some. Have you been in contact with any?
I've texted with a lot of guys. Actually,
and what are they doing?
Well, they're trying to do their work. Stephen Matz and Jacob deGrom in particular.
Are most of them in the spring training city? I know that a lot of them have homes there. So are they in the most of them in the Port St. Lucie area or in the Tampa area for the Yankees, or are they all over the place?
They're kind of all over the place. Jake was home, and Stephen lives in Nashville. His wife is from Nashville. She's a country singer. And
who's that, Matt?
He's been working. Stephen Matz, yeah.
Oh, his wife's a country singer? I didn't know that. Okay.
His wife is part of the Canes.
Really?
Canes. It's a family. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got I know his family because they're from Long Island. They're nice people, really nice people.
Yeah.
Here. I've met them a couple of times. Yeah, they're really nice guys, they're really nice folks. But I didn't realize he married a country singer, huh?
He did, and they're very good. I can't remember her name. Her name escapes me, but it's interesting because Steve's done a lot of work with the first responders, firemen, policemen, etc., and he's kept that up through this thing. He's done a terrific job. He really has. He's been in touch. He just sent a video to a policeman who was knocked down with COVID and is in the hospital at this point in time. His fellow officers asked him to send something, and Steve got right on it. Did it. So,
well, it's been crazy here, as you know. Long Island's been just like New York City. It's been crazy. It's been hit like unbelievable. I mean,
but he's working out down in Nashville.
Right.
Jake has grown with his father down at his home down in Florida.
Right.
I think it's Deland, Florida, where he is. But basically, guys are home. Pete Alonso is down in the Tampa area. He's working out. But everybody's just trying to, stay in shape. But nobody knows at this point in time what's in store, or there'll be some kind of spring training or some kind of prelim. How long that's going to be, I don't know. But at least the thought is that I think at this point, sometime if things start to clear up and you get some good news on the reopenings and that you can get together sometime in June, maybe mid-June, and get this underway in July. And like you, I do think there will be baseball. I just don't know what shape it's going to take place and what kind of crazy rules are going to be implemented as well for baseball this year. I have a feeling there'll be a few of them too.
Someone like James, when people hear, when LeBron James, remember, he's so competitive. Plus, he knows he doesn't have that many years left, and he's got a first-place team. He wants a crack at a title this year. I mean, he doesn't have that many years. So he's thinking, hey, I already played the regular season. I don't have to play anymore. So when you hear him saying that, of course he's going to say that. So that's the case when he's coming out saying, hey, I don't know any players. As soon as it's safe, we would like to finish and go through the postseason. I'm ready. Our team is ready. Nobody should cancel anything. that's true. We understand that, and I love the sentiment. I hope they do, but I understand it's not an easy thing to do. That's for sure.
No, it isn't. DeGrom is one of the least selfish players that I know.
Yes.
He's all about team. He's a great teammate. But I did ask him about, have you thought about if the season just bypasses you? This is a guy that's headed for the Hall of Fame, at least off the last 2 seasons. You lose a season like this with his age. He's not a young guy.
No, he's not.
He's in his 30s now.
Yeah.
You lose that, that's a possibility that it might affect something like that.
It could. It's a very real point. Absolutely could. Yeah.
I mean, I don't honestly, deep down, I don't think he cares, but it's something that, you think about anyway, because I don't think anybody wants to lose a season like that, especially when you're in the prime of your career. And I'm sure Pete Alonso feels the same way. I didn't ask him about it, but, off a season like he had last year and bursting on the scene, I'm sure he doesn't want to just pack in a season and wait till next year. So I don't think any of these guys do. But what it's going to look like and what it's going to be, I have no idea at this point in time because it changes day by day.
Here's the thing LeBron just tweeted. I saw some reports about executives and agents saying they want to cancel the season. That's absolutely not true. I have not spoken to anybody who wants to do that. As soon as it's safe, we would like to finish. I'm ready. Our team is ready. Nobody should be canceling anything. But you know what? I don't know that that's going to be the case. I know that a lot of the teams said, you know what, show us a safe return. And I heard, a couple of the owners discuss it and say, hey, as soon as they show me a safe return, I'm okay. But until they show me a safe return, I'm not back. And that's what Cuban, who I think has been very realistic during this thing, was saying, hey, when you show me a safe plan, I'm good. But I haven't seen one yet. And until I see one, we're not doing anything. So, I mean, I think that's where they are. And, Mark Lasry, I heard him today because he was on CNBC, and he obviously owns the Bucks. He wants to play. He's got the best record in the league. Either that or he wants to be declared the champion right now. I mean, which isn't going to happen. But, somehow I think the NBA is easier because of the stadium issues are easier. You can it's fewer guys that you have to control.
Yes.
It's small. You can play in smaller buildings with just TV in it's easier than hockey. It's easier than a stadium for football. It's easier than baseball. So that's their advantage that they have. But boy, when you look and you really follow this along, only thing we see now is things being canceled. I mean, the last couple of days we've seen the Hall of Fame canceled. We've seen the Little League World Series canceled. We've seen Saratoga canceled. And it's one after another after another. The NFL cuts salaries. They cut salaries. Everyone's saying, why are you cutting salaries? They're cutting salaries because they know already that the second part of their season is not going to be played in front. When they're in games, they're not going to be played in front of fans. And they also probably know, too, that NFL properties right now isn't selling anything probably. And, even that's probably been down, from which they sell all year. So, I mean, they sell jerseys. As soon as the draft comes out, they sell jerseys. But, I'm sure those are way down because people are not working. So from that standpoint, it makes it very tough. I do believe in my heart of hearts, I'd give basketball a 50-50. I don't know, have an educated guess on hockey. I'd say baseball is about 90-10 that they play something. That would be my opinion. Yeah. I would think college football is in big trouble.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because you alluded to this before about football and the kids not being back on campus, but there was a report that the NFL is looking into possibly playing on Saturdays as well if college football isn't there.
Yep.
If there is no college football, they would play or could play on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Well, remember, college football has spring practice for 20 days. They don't even have anybody on campus this year for spring practice.
That's right. I know. It's nuts. I don't know. I totally agree. I don't know how you can do that. If you don't have kids or the student body on campus, you can't bring kids onto campus and at that point in time and have them suit up and play football. You can't do that.
No, I mean, listen. To how disruptive this has been to college students. I know just with my son, who's a freshman, Jack, in high school. him just going through the spring and how disruptive this was. He was the baseball team was practicing every day. Then all of a sudden their season shut down. Then they're out of class and they're just doing video and everything. Same thing. Emily Harrison both doing video every day. They get up and do video every morning with their classes and everything.
Yep.
But this is this whole thing across America. If you're a college student, this has really got to be incredibly disruptive. And if you're a college senior, this has got to be crazy. It really is, you know?
Mike, I agree. I was talking with my daughter about this too, and the high school seniors and the college seniors are people I particularly feel sorry for, because those are ritual. The prom, everything for high school, everything, the graduation, obviously. The things you go through, you can't ever get back.
Right, and those poor kids who are high school seniors don't know where they're going next year.
Yeah, and a lot of kids, I was reading something today, a lot of kids are deferring for a year, or they're going to work, or they're going the second semester. But the high school seniors and college seniors this year, I just feel particularly sorry for, just simply because the things that you normally go through and that you look forward to going through 4 years of high school and 4 years of college, you don't have, and you'll never get them back either. It's it's terrible, but everybody's in the same boat. That's the only way you can look at it, unfortunately.
No, that's basically it. And, this time we're going to be meaning sports, we're going to be the ones that are the last back, not the ones who lead the way back like we did last time. I mean, after 9/11, we kind of led the way back. Now it's going to be the other way around. Sports is going to be the sports. And, I think about it, if you're in the, so many different businesses, but if you're in the airline business or the hotel business or the ticket business, or you're in the concert business or Broadway. I mean, imagine these Broadway actors and actresses. I mean, and stuff. I mean, who knows when they're going to get a chance to be? You know how jammed in those buildings are. I mean, you know how cramped a Broadway theater is. I mean, with those little theaters. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, to think of how this has impacted so many people, it's crazy.
Yeah, everyone says it'll be. You can open up, but opening up does not mean that you're going to open up to full restaurants.
No, you can't open to full restaurants anyway. And to open a restaurant, when people open a restaurant to 50%, those restaurants don't make any money. Good restaurants can't open at 50%. They have high rent, they have expensive chefs, and they need to be full and turn it over on weekends. No, turn a table over more than once. I mean, let's be honest. New York City doesn't work socially distancing. You cannot get to New York City socially distancing. Right. You can't get up an elevator socially distancing. New York City does not work from a socially distancing standpoint. I heard the governor today talking about cleaning the cars of the subway every night.
Subway.
I mean, come on. You know what that's going to cost?
Oh, my God. I know. Yeah, exactly. That's a gargantuan task every night. I mean, I don't know how you do it.
I mean, the cost is going to be insanity. I mean, what things are going to it's amazing. It really is. And you can think about it, no matter who it is. You can think about your walk of life and how it's been touched, and then realize everybody else has too. And we've never seen the guy. Here's a perfect perspective. The airline guy I saw on TV today said this is 9 times worse than 9/11.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. As terrible and horrendous as that was, there was a finite thing to it. You knew who it was. You saw what happened, and you could collectively get back together after that, and eventually this country did. In some parts and some people it took longer, but you could collectively get back from it. You have no way of even knowing, where this thing is and how much devastation it can cause at this point in time. So,
how about a new manager? Have you been in touch with the new Met manager? This has got to be tough on him too. I mean, you wait your life to become a new manager, and all of a sudden your first season gets thrown into complete upheaval. I mean, how many guys? There are going to be extra pitches when they come back. There's going to be extra people on the roster. I mean, they could play double headers. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Louis is going to be very good at that. He's very detail oriented. He'll be fine. I just spoke with him. We actually texted. I haven't really spoken with him, but we texted, and he's doing okay. He's anxious to get back and get his feet wet. Let's put it that way. But I think he'll be fine when it gets going. But you're right. There's a lot.
Where does he live, Eddie?
He's down in Florida.
Okay.
He's down in Florida now. Yeah, he's down near Port St. Lucie. So he's just waiting, for what's going to happen and where they're going to go. And I would assume anyway. I think that most people would go back to their spring training sites. I guess. I don't.
Oh yeah, it's
knows?
got at least. I saw the NBA guys said they needed 11 days individual drills and 2 weeks of scrimmaging, so they needed 25 days.
Yeah.
25 days. Yeah. Baseball players need at least 3 weeks, I think. At least 3 weeks.
Think about that, though, Mike. The NBA and the NBA actually, I think they gave the green light to some teams to open up, but then they pulled it back.
Yes,
they gave it and they actually pushed it.
Well, because you're going to see a lot of that yin and yang going back and forth. You can open, no, you can't. Yes, you can, no, you can't. Because everybody's in control of different parts of the town and the area too.
Yeah, but I mean, think of what you just said. They need 11 days of basically kind of individual workouts,
right,
and then a couple of weeks
of scrimmaging.
As a team. That's a month. That's a month right there.
Yeah, and that's why they talked about coming back and playing a couple of games, because the reason why is they said, well, we need to scrimmage against each other, otherwise, and we don't want to do it against our own team. We don't want to play exhibition games. We might as well play real games. And, that's why they thought about doing that. But then you have to bring back the teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, and those teams have no interest in coming back.
Exactly. Exactly. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. There are so many variables with each sport, and obviously the variables don't stop just with the sport.
And I haven't paid attention to hockey, so I don't know what hockey's thinking. I mean, you probably have paid some attention to it. I don't even know what hockey's even thinking.
Well, they have an idea of playing, I think it was 4 cities that they had zeroed in on, and kind of having a round-robin sort of tournament where 24 of the 29 teams would be in the play. But it sounded confusing to me, so I don't even know how far along they are. But, there were a couple of cities in Canada and then a couple in the U.S. as well, too. But, and you divvy up the teams there, 6 teams here, 6 teams there. But it sounds convoluted and confusing, like every other, solution to getting the.
All right. Have you watched Ozark?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have not. I have to go back because I watched season 3. I did not watch the first.
That's really good, Ozark.
It's
really well done, well written. What wicked women characters, unbelievable. I'll give you one from the other night. Did you see Bad Education?
Yes, I saw it last night.
Wasn't it good?
I loved it.
Wasn't that well? Well, first of all, really good acting. Really good.
Jackman, Allison Janney.
Yeah, Allison Janney's great, and that's the next town over from me, and that's a true story. That whole thing is a true. They embellished it a little bit, and that the girl was the one who uncovered it. But Newsday's the one that got into the deep dive. But she did uncover it in the high school newspaper. And, I mean, that became an enormous scandal. That was a really well-done show. Really well done. Someone told me to watch it. I watched it the other night. It was really good.
Did you do Tiger King?
I did not. I did not, and I did not hear great things about it. People told me don't. I didn't do it. I didn't go there. I did not.
It was very popular. I was drafted into it by my family. I enjoyed it, but it was it is strange. It's a little weird. I'll tell you that.
I watched one with my wife that I have to admit is a very much, and I don't like to use this term, but I will anyway. Chick flick kind of thing, but It was very well done, and it was called, what's the name of it? Reese Witherspoon, Tiny Little Things You Burn.
Yeah, Tiny Little Fires.
Tiny Little Fire, yeah, that was really good. It was it was definitely a real intense, and it was definitely, I don't know if every guy would love it, but boy, I tell you, it was very well acted. The kids were great, and the leading ladies, especially Reese Witherspoon, were really good. Tiny Little Fires Everywhere or something like that. Very good. Very good. Yep. And they're not having another season. That was it. They said then they have been begged to have another season, and then they're not having another season. I think it's on Hulu, and it was really good. Very good. Check that one out if you haven't seen it. It's very, very good.
You know what's interesting? I was saying this to somebody because I've watched a lot of music specials. Some like the country music they had awards. Right. I actually enjoy this process where they have to be at home and they kind of do all their stuff acoustically and kind of kicked back. There's there are no glamorous settings, no fireworks going off, and all the stuff you usually see during award shows. I kind of like it where it's all stripped down. Let's put it that way, and playing the music that way kind of naturally. It's been enjoyable to me to watch it that way. I don't know how other people feel, but it's kind of interesting. I guess maybe performers are going to have to get used to that in the future because I don't know how many concerts they're going to be able to have.
I have no idea. I'm telling you, the world's crazy. Eddie, stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. I'll talk to you. Okay?
All right, Mike. Good
Thanks.
talking to you.
Be well. Eddie C, back after this. We're back on the fan right after this. And it's can put that on top of the strangest March we ever lived through. And hopefully the May won't be in the same category, but I got a feeling it will be as we begin May tomorrow on this last day of April on this Thursday evening. We'll be with you until 6:30. You heard just a minute ago. They will bring you back to the halcyon days of yore with the Mets tonight, 1969. So anything with 69 is obviously magical. Howie will be there to take you through it. He remembers it well. He and I were both teenagers in those days. He was a Met fan. I wasn't. But still, all of us, as I've said to you many times, all of us got caught up with, I admit it, even as a diehard Yankee fan, I got caught up in that Met 69 thing. All right, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was stunned by the whole thing. And I wasn't like adamantly rooting against them. I wasn't that way. So I didn't hate them or anything. You couldn't hate the Mets. The Mets had never done anything to hate. You have a reason to hate them. They'd never done anything before. I mean, they had just existed. They were clowns, and then they started to get respectable. They started to have Seaver and Kuzman and start to edge away. Remember, the year before they win it, they finished 9th. So they'd never come close to a winning season. And then all of a sudden, you snap your fingers, there they go, late August, take off, wind up winning 100 games that year. See, people don't realize they became a really good club that year. They were a club that was the classic pitching, timely defense, platoon, just enough hitting, make that one special ingredient trade that was Clendenin, get that one magical season out of the great player that was Seaver, and have so many other guys. Kuzman was incredibly clutch, but they got a lot out of their platoons, whether it was the glider and Garrett at third base, or whether it was Weiss at second base with Boswell, or whether it was, using the bats of, Shamsky and Swoboda, okay? You relied on a couple everyday players. You had Grody for the most part behind the plate. You had J.C. Moore, but you had Grody. You had Buddy at short, which was a pepper pot kind of shortstop, was a good field, wasn't a big hitter. You had A.G. was having a really good center field year, power, cover the ground, leadoff hitter, get some hits. And then you had Cleon Jones having that huge year in left. You had Cleon Jones batting .340, being that classic middle-of-the-order guy. Wasn't a home run hitter, but a line drive hitter. And Cleon had an incredible season that year. He was just a line drive machine. That's all he was. But Clendenin, just like DeBusschere came to the Knicks and made the difference, not just in the year they have, but how they make everybody better. How one guy gets out of the way, Bellamy for Reed, which is what was a product of that trade. Comives and DeBusschere. Comives and Bellamy for DeBusschere. And you get Reed into his more natural spot and get Bellamy out of the way. Bellamy was a big scorer. Major scorer. But getting that guy out of the way opens things up for other people. And then you have that one guy who gives a lineup credibility. And that's what Clendenin brought to that team. He gave that lineup credibility. And they had guys, I'm telling you, A.G. had a really good year. And A.G. had a lot of power. He wasn't a great hitter. He didn't have a lot of great years if you look it up. But at power, he'd get on base. He'd make the big catch. He wasn't a great center fielder, but he covered the ground. He made a big catch. Cleon was right in the middle of the lineup doing it every day. Grody was they were really good defensively because Grody was a great defensive catcher, and Buddy was a really good defensive shortstop. They played it really well up the middle, and then they had classic pitching, Just classic pitching, led, of course, by Seaver and Kuzma. But, Seaver and Kuzma, and had a Nolan Ryan as a swing guy, Evan Gentry. I mean, they had plenty. And they got hot, and then beat a good Atlanta Braves team, which didn't have a lot of pitching, and then obviously stunned the Orioles in the World Series. So you relive some of that in this crazy year where you do relive so many of these events. This takes you back a long, long way to 1969, but to one of the really amazing years in the history of New York sports, and really one of the amazing teams, from Marvelous Marv to a miracle. That was really true. They went from being the clowns to being this really amazing, football team. Football team. I'm looking at the football thing today. Baseball team. I was looking at football, looking at Dalton being released. Obviously, it's no longer his team. Yeah, he wasn't terrible. Much maligned because he's a Bengal. Not in the right spot at the right time, but productive. Had a productive career, threw for 30,000 yards, had 200 touchdown passes. I mean, had a decent career. Really did. Can still play. You got these guys, who can still play. You still have these guys who can play, who are moving from teams like Winston and like Dalton. And obviously, a couple others still looking for homes who we know can get the job done. And where they're going to wind up is going to be very interesting to see. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Little League World Series canceled. So, again, don't be surprised by anything like that. It's going to happen. You've had the Hall of Fame canceled the last couple of days for baseball. You have to wait now for Jeter and Larry Walker. You have Little League World Series canceled. Yesterday, Saratoga, no racing at Saratoga. We still don't know if the horses will race there. We still don't know if they will conduct racing for television, because the product is an expensive one, and it helps a lot. And it's, the simulcasting of Saratoga all over the country does very, very well. So I don't know what their plan is. I really don't. There was a lot of talk about, or a little buzz about, guys wanting to cancel the NBA season. And then LeBron stepped up and said, hey, nobody's canceling this season. Well, LeBron doesn't want to cancel it. He knows, A, he's got a chance to win it. B, clock's ticking. Doesn't have a whole lot of years left. So every one becomes very, very precious. And this is one where he thinks, hey, I can win this. You'd feel the same way if you were LeBron. I don't have any problem with that. If I were the Bucks, I'd feel the same way. Hey, I can win this year. If you're the Clippers, you're thinking the same thing. We can put this together and win this year. So we'll see what happens. We just don't know. Every day, it looks like very little chance we will have any sporting events where there will be fans in the stadiums or in the arenas or in wherever they have as their venues. It just doesn't look like it's going to be possible. Especially when you're looking at anything that you listen to and they tell you that if they did everything right and dotted every I and crossed every T and had everything break right, the best they could do with a vaccine is a year. And that's really, they say, probably not even realistic. They're trying to be wishful thinking. So that's where we are on this Thursday evening as we say goodbye to the month of April. Back after this. We say goodbye. Take your eye up until the replay of the Mets and I believe they're doing the Braves tonight. I believe that's what they're doing. As they're getting you ready for, I guess they've already played the World Series games. I don't know which ones they've played yet. I know they played Game 6 before. I don't know which other ones they've played, but I think they're pretty much playing a whole bunch of the 69 games, and they're playing one tonight from 69 when the Mets just ripped through, as they did. I had, like I said, the team was became a terrific team. I mean, they went 38-9 down the stretch. They won 100 games on the season. They swept the Braves, and then they beat the Orioles in 5 games. Can't do much better than that. I mean, you can't have a much better season than that. Dalton's gone from Cincinnati, where let's be honest, he had a pretty good career. Much maligned because I think, you get to a point where you're with a team that never wins the big game, and then you get kind of put in the middle of that. So where does he go? I know some people think now that New England's not a possibility because they would have gone and got him. I'm not sure that's the case. I think he could wind up in New England. I think he could wind up in Jacksonville. I think he could wind up in Denver. I would think those would be the more logical spots. You obviously have Jameis in New Orleans. You still have Cam Newton out there. But listen, he'll find a job. He could play in the league. I mean, he's okay. I mean, he's not great, but he's solid. I mean, he's a guy that he can win a game for you. If you turn a game over to him, he can win a game for you. I don't think there's any question about that. Do I think he's a great quarterback? No. Is he a good quarterback? He's okay. He's not going to hurt you. There's a lot of journeyman guys. He's definitely been better than. I mean, the guy's had a highly productive career. You get, when you think about it, you're going to say he's had a pretty solid career when you look at it. Nothing great, but he's not going to be remembered. But he's a guy that very workmanlike, had plenty of good games, plenty of solid games, put up some solid numbers. So if you threw him in a game, could he win it for you? Absolutely. Is he there to be an insurance policy? Could he be an insurance policy on any of those teams? Absolutely. Some of those teams he could play. So I'm sure he wants to go somewhere where he has a chance to compete. That's all he wants to do. I'm sure he wants to go to a place where, I doubt he wants to go at this point, sit behind a guy. Like, let's say he came to the Jets and was the backup. He's not going to play. They're not going to let him challenge for the job. Now, you can be there to back up a guy who might get hurt. You can always get hurt in this league. You can always get your bell rung in this league. That's fine. You go to other places, you can challenge for the job. You go here, you're going to play the backup role. It depends what's in his head at this point. But one thing you know about quarterback is it's never over. Absolutely never over. Things change in a hurry. One play. All right, let me get a couple in here before we turn it over to baseball. Jason in Great Neck. Go ahead, Jason.
What's going on? Mike, real quick, there's a show on HBO, The Plot Against America. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it.
I know it's about Lindbergh. I have not seen it. I know it's about...
It's pretty good. It's decent. It's decent. It's not
John
bad.
Turturro's in that, right? John Turturro.
Yes. It's by the same people that did The Wire.
Right.
David Simon.
Well, The Wire was well done. The Wire was well done.
No, yeah, absolutely. But, Mike, real quick, on Trevor Lawrence, would you recommend that he just sit out this year? I mean, who knows if football is going to be back in college? He's already the number 1 pick. He won a national championship. Why not just sit out this year and just
I
not
don't think he'll
anything?
play. Jason, listen, he's not. I can tell you this. He's not going to, and thanks for the call, he's not going to give up another year of his livelihood and of his earning power. This coming year will be his last year outside the NFL. So if they don't play this year, he will be in the NFL next year. That's a given. Remember, he's not allowed in the league until he's had 3 years. You can be a redshirt sophomore. You can be a pure junior. You have to have 3 years before you can go into the draft. He's going to be in the NFL draft next year. He's going to be the first player picked. That's a lock. I mean, the only way he's not is if he suffers a serious injury. Otherwise, he's a serious injury. Because if he suffered anything that was, something that heals, he's still going to be the first player picked. So it would have to be a serious injury for him to not be the first player picked. That's how good he is. He's going to come in with a can't-miss grade. He's going to come in with an Elway, Aikman, Luck kind of can't-miss grade at the quarterback position. He's got everything you could ever want. Size, the whole thing. There's nothing he doesn't have. And he's got a great arm. I mean, he's got a chance to be a big star. Nick in Guilford. What's up, Nick?
Talking about books to read during this, and it started me rereading Truman. But I was wondering, have you read the Robert Caro books on Johnson?
No. I have never read a book on Lyndon Johnson.
You have to. There are
What's
four
the name of
books
the
that
book? Give me the book.
Well, he's got 4 books. If you just look up the author is Robert Caro.
Robert.
Caro.
Okay. And is there one that you recommend more than the others, or no?
Well, the third one was Master of the Senate. That won the Pulitzer Prize, but all 4 of them are great.
And he was the master of the Senate. There's no question. And he also his first 18 months probably was the most productive president in the history of the United States in terms of what he ushered. What he ushered in terms of legislation. It's never been equaled in the history of mankind.
That's the book that Caro is working on now, and everybody's waiting for the 5th book. It's got Vietnam.
I'll tell you, it's funny. I actually started rereading Truman, and I actually took it out of my books, out of my library, and started reading it about a week and a half ago. And I've read that book 3 times.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that is the best book I've ever. It's amazing to have a man where he didn't want any of this, and everything fell on his shoulders. Everything. Yep. I mean, it's utterly amazing. And then he handled it all well. It's a remarkable thing. But Johnson is everybody gets hung up on Vietnam, a lot of which was not his fault. It was not his fault because Kennedy put General Maxwell Taylor in charge, and then Johnson leaned on him and McNamara. So
you know what?
And you know what? And here's the difference. He leaned on them. Kennedy would have told them what to do. That's the difference. Right. That's what might have happened. And I can't say which way it would have gone. That's a great debate. But the point is, he leaned on those guys, and it got out of his hand. But if you look at what he did, because having the whole wave of everybody being behind the Democrats because of the Kennedy assassination and his ability to master the Senate, as you said, he got more legislation through than anybody could ever even imagine, as you know, but the audience doesn't. He got through more legislation in 18 months than most presidents did. If you took 10 presidents and lined them up, they didn't get as much in as he did in 18 months.
And the fascinating part is that he had that all inside him as he was coming up, but he knew to hold it back. And when he finally got the power, he used it.
Oh, absolutely. And now what killed him was he hated that he lost his relationship with Richard Russell. That bothered the heck out of him. And you knew it would, and you knew it would change the South, and it would divide the Senate, and it did, and there was no way for him, and thanks for the call, there was no way for him to get around it, in that Richard Russell was like his father, and he loved Richard Russell, but Richard Russell did not want segregation. Did not want integration, and he was a segregationist, and they fought like crazy, and he and Johnson, split up over it, and it really bothered Johnson. Richard in Manhattan, what's up, Richard?
Hi, Mike. Rate these 3 players, 1, 2, 3. Joe Morgan, Lou Brock, Ricky Henderson.
They're all great players. Ricky Henderson's 1, Lou Brock's 2, Joe Morgan's 3.
Think the Busher trade the greatest trade in New York sports history?
It's thanks for the call. It's a very, very. I mean, doing other sports is always tough. There were big trades, but that trade's as big a trade as ever happened in New York. There's been some great trades in New York. Some trades that were completely pivotal and changed teams. Absolutely. Goring was a big trade, as an example. Clendenin was a big trade. There have been a million big trades. The Yankees have made plenty of big trades, but the Busher trade changed a team into a dynasty. I mean, that's how big it was. As far as those 3 players, Ricky Henderson is one of the greatest offensive players in the history of baseball. Lou Brock got 3,000 hits and was one of the enduring stars. And Joe Morgan won back-to-back MVPs. They're all Hall of Fame players. They're all great players, but I would rank them Henderson, Brock, Morgan. And they're all great players, all 3 of them. But Ricky Henderson's first. Ricky Henderson's one of the greatest offensive players. As a matter of fact, he's underrated. He is one of the greatest offensive forces in the history of Major League Baseball. The idea of baseball is to score runs. There has never been anybody better at scoring runs than Ricky Henderson. And the idea of baseball is to get on base and get home safely. That is the essence of the sport. And he did that better than just about any player in the history of the sport. He wasn't the best player. He wasn't the best hitter. He wasn't the best fielder. He wasn't the best guy. But in the essence of getting on first, his on-base percentage, stealing bases, and then scoring, he was one of the lethal weapons in the history of professional baseball and is highly underrated. Casamigos Tequila brings you the program, as always, brought to you by those who drink it. Met Baseball coming up with Howie next. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.